Welcome back to the Growing Band Director Podcast. This is episode number 189. I'm here with Eddie Otto. Eddie, how are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you doing?
Beautiful. We're going to talk today about building a well-rounded band program, and this episode's coming out in the beginning of school. So this is just a wonderful topic. I think a lot of us, kind of fall on different sides of this, but I'm really interested to hear your viewpoint on this and a lot of ways that we can do it. And I think we're singing the same tune here, if you will. So you were saying earlier that your dad's a band director too.
Yes. Yes. Over at Downingtown West High School, home of the Fighting Whippets, the second fastest dog. They're like 20 minutes away, so it's a super cool relationship. We perform a lot together. We have parent events with each other.
Super sweet. So, when you were growing up and he was a band director, what was that like?
Oh yeah, he was my mom's also a band director. She's an elementary band director. So she starts them in elementary school at Downingtown, and my dad gets them at the end, which is kind of a cool thing to see. Yeah, so I mean I my whole life essentially I was at my first band show 2 weeks old. Because I was born on October 26th, because that's the worst time of the year I could have been born for my poor father. Uh, so yeah, I was there right afterwards. I experienced my first drumline season, indoor drumline season before I was one. So I can't even imagine life without the activity.
Yeah, so that's kind of where my kids are at because my wife and I are band directors in the same town too, and all that. Excelsior Music Publishing is proud to sponsor the Growing Band Director podcast. As a composer-led publisher, Excelsior Music Publishing provides new music of all levels for concert band, jazz ensemble, solo and ensemble, plus method books and resources. They're known for publishing inspiring, accessible music by composers who are sensitive to and passionate about educational aspirations of young musicians. Find your perfect back to school music at excelsiormusic.com. That's EXCELCIA music.com. So you teach at Unionville High School in Pennsylvania.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about your program.
So it's a great school district. Super supportive administration. I feel like we have a great relationship with everybody. We have 9 through 12 at the high school. We have middle school across the street, so we're on the same kind of campus. That's 6 through 8. At the high school, we have a concert band class, a symphonic band class that gets honors credit. So it's an honor symphonic band class. We have AP music theory, and I teach music technology levels 1 and 2, and then I have lessons throughout the day. We also have a choral program. Great choir director here, Jason Throne. He has 2 levels of choir. The second level is honors, like the band is. He also teaches guitar and music theory level 1 and 2. Then we have a halftime orchestra director who just teaches orchestra.
So when we've been talking about this concept of a well-rounded band program, what is it that you mean by that?
This is why I really got into being a band director. Because I marched drum corps when I was in 8th grade with the Reading Buccaneers, and I marched through high school, and I did a year of 1 year at DCI with the Bluecoats back in 2014, which I can't believe is 10 years ago. It makes me feel pretty old at this point. Um, yeah, so I had the opportunity to meet a bunch of really great, we'll say kids at the time, involved in those programs that came from some of the top programs in the country. The Avons, the Tarpon Springs, all of those. And seeing what those programs did for those kids was super, super cool. And when I was in high school and I was looking at these programs, I would think these kids are the same age as I am. Like, why don't I get to do this too? You know?
Mm-hmm.
So I went to college, and I was fortunate to work with some great music educators at Westchester University. And through that, they teach there that any part of the program has to come from the symphonic band program. And I loved that teaching philosophy, because going into college, I was a marching band major who played the lead trumpet in jazz band, and just wanted to play high notes my whole life. And that's all I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And then broaden my horizon. So I came from jazz and drum corps, and then symphonic band centered approach. Um, and then after that, fast forward, I'm a GA for a year, then I get this job at Unionville, and I start teaching with that kind of philosophy. And then I learn that nobody knows what the symphonic band is at Unionville. Well, people know what it is. I'm being dramatic, but not as many people know about it as the marching band.
Mm-hmm.
So, the school board will talk to me, and they're like, "Oh, the marching band's great. The indoor percussion is great." And I learned that the marching arts, that's the public facing part of the program.
Sure.
So now you have the heart of the program, you have the public facing parts of the program, and then you have your pedagogical stuff with the lessons, and you have the jazz part of the program, which is also super important because that's a whole critical sect of music that
Yeah.
I feel like people skip out on a lot. Um, and I noticed, everyone has kind of the same idea with a different background,
Hmm.
right? So people come from the symphonic world and the marching world, but a lot of the times that background forces them to focus on one thing. So, you have the marching band heads where it's marching band, and you go inside and they aren't program repertoire suitable for the program, and then they start in the fall, and it's like they're starting from ground zero with the kids.
Yeah.
When in reality, it should all feed into each other. So the word we go by, the phrase I guess we go by at Unionville is that you do everything how you do anything. So for everything to be good, anything you do has to be good. And as soon as we got the whole staff on the same page, and the indoor percussion, the team was preaching the same thing as me in symphonic band, and the wind staff was saying the same thing in marching band, and the people I bring in jazz band say the same thing. The whole program started to just blossom in a way I knew was possible, but I wasn't quite sure how to get there.
I want to thank Austin Custom Brass for being a sponsor of today's podcast. Trent Austin started this wonderful shop back in the Boston area many years ago and has moved to Kansas City. Check out their unique line of doublers instruments that are perfect for students, band programs, and players of all ages. The Austin Custom Brass doublers flugelhorn is their most popular selling instrument, available in 5 different beautiful finishes. These flugelhorns come with a case in Austin Custom Brass's Fab 5 mouthpiece. The doublers flugelhorn offers a quality sound, playability, and affordability. Get one for yourself or your whole trumpet section today. Call Austin Custom Brass at 816-410-0826. They are located in Kansas City, Missouri, but they ship all over the country, and they're wonderful humans and great people to hang with. Austin Custom Brass works with band programs from all over the country. They can provide a bid to you today, work within your school's budget, and accept POs. Call their team today at 816-410-0826 or email at info@austincustombrass.com. I think there's a lot of programs, and I'm not going to single out any program, but a lot of programs that put their eggs all in one basket, right? And it's easy to say about the marching arts, like there's a lot of programs who do that. And I think a lot of times people end up turning around and then they realize their kids don't know anything and they can't play. I mean, maybe the marching band sounds good, but when
Mhm.
you actually hear the kids play, or like because band during the day is like where they learn all the things. This is how they learn how to build their embouchure, and they're playing every day, and they get to learn how to count and play in an ensemble and like all these things that we know. But it's so easy to put the premise all on the stuff that everybody sees all the time. But you're right, and Jeff Smith, my dear friend who started the podcast with me, we always felt we agreed on this from the very beginning of our relationship that like the concert band and chamber music needs to be the center of everything.
Mhm.
Everything else will take care of itself. Because if you've got a bunch of kids who can play in a big band, well, the big band's going to be great because they know how to play their horns. If you have a bunch of kids who can play their horns and they're in the marching band's going to be great because they know how to play their horns, right? So that taking care of the foundation is just huge. And I think a lot of people try to skip that. And we are here today to say that they should not.
Yes. Amen.
So why is another thought I have? I have like a philosophical thought on that, and me and philosophy don't go hand in hand because like I tell people I'm the worst interviewer ever. Like if anybody interviewed me for a band job, there's no way I would get that band job because I'm terrible talking about what is your philosophy of music. I'd be like, let's get in front of a bunch of kids and we'll see how it goes.
Mhm.
So do you have like an inner philosophy about why we should have a well-rounded program?
High school kids are high school kids wherever you go, and music changes them to be incredible people. My belief is that for music to have the and David Maslanka says this, for music to have the most significant impact on a person, you need to go through a challenge, you need to work through challenging repertoire and get better and stay a part of that program. And as you achieve this stuff you used to think was impossible, that's where you learn the most important life lessons, and that's where you build these relationships that you and I could talk about for hours, where these lifelong friendships and how band is a family and everything everyone says that comes from from those high quality performance opportunities. Now, to get to these high quality performance opportunities, you have to be good. So to be good, You need this well-rounded program that feeds into itself so that the kids get the most out of it. And also, I mean, we like to conduct great ensembles, you know? So when we love what we do and the kids love what they do, it's a program that's going to be great.
I think so many times as the director, you're right. We kind of lead it towards a path of what we liked or what we were most comfortable with. But I want to challenge people to think of it like this. So I don't know, Eddie. I don't know any kids in your band at all. I don't know any of their names. I've never met them. Right? Same thing. You don't know any of my kids. Okay.
Yep.
I bet you both of us have the same type of kids. Right? We all have kids who love their horn and they want to practice because they want to be amazing, and those kids are few and far between, but there's a lot of those kids. So we also have the kids who are like, yeah, I'll do it. Like, this is fine. I want to be good at my instrument. I'll practice. If you say to practice, this is going to be good. They're kind of like your middle of the road players, whatever. And then you have the kids who really don't care about their instrument at all, but they love being in band. They love the atmosphere. They love the social life. They love all the things that comes with it. And they happen to hold that horn or play that drum, and they will do what you ask, but they're not invested musicians. And as I say that, I'm just picturing kid after kid, kind of in each realm that I've had over the years. But if you think of it, each one of the ensembles that we teach also will are geared towards different types of kids, or different kids relate to it. I mean, I've had kids who I see on the marching field or at a parade, and I would think they were useless as a musician. Like, they can't do anything. You sit them down with a jazz combo and they are burning. They just can't march, you know,
Yeah.
or kids that maybe love sitting down and they flourish in concert band, but you put them on a parade route and they look like they're having a really hard time. So like, these kids are all different, right? And I think it's our job to serve as many of these kids as possible. We will get right back to our content, but I wanted to thank you for being such an amazing band director, that you're taking your time and listening to a band director podcast. There's many options out there, and I appreciate you very much taking in this content. I hope that you understand that your students are very lucky to have you as their band director, that you're continuing to grow, and that they are going to benefit from your improved skills as a band director. You can share this episode with any band director friends or other music education friends who can learn from this content, because good pedagogy is good pedagogy. And if you could take a moment and go to thegrowingbanddirector.com, and you'll be able to sign up on our Patreon platform to give at least $5 or $3 a month. And it helps the content continue to be created for you to help our profession grow. Let's go back to our scheduled episode. So, like, can you think of any kids that you've had? I know I can, who, like, in concert band, they struggled. Like, they were not great players. They kind of did a good job, but they were sort of your maybe below average sort of kids. But you get them on a marching band parking lot and they are all about it. They love getting the water. They love marching. They're really good marchers. They still can't play their horn because it's still the same horn, but the different atmospheres just helps different kids thrive.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. We did the vast majority of the kids here were fortunate, especially in our top ensemble, like work really, really hard, and I'm super proud of them. And then we're also sending, we just played Maslanka Symphony 4 in our last spring concert. And we're sending this music back because it's all rental music with fingerings written in the euphonium two part. You know what I mean? So the kids at the end, they perform it, they have this similar experience, and they all work together towards the common goal, like we all say. And yes, there's kids that love jazz. There's kids that do jazz that will not step foot on the marching band field. They won't do it.
Yep.
They're great musicians, but they won't do it. And you know, that's their thing, you know? So it's important. Without that program, we miss those kids. And if we miss those kids, they miss the performance opportunities. If they miss the ensemble and the performance opportunities, they miss all of these pivotal life lessons that we teach.
So I'm interested in the how. Like, how do you have all of these ensembles? You know, a couple maybe year round, but most of them are probably in seasons and all this. And so, how do you and your school in Unionville actually make that work?
So I did a lot of research into this in my master's program, comparing band programs throughout the country, because before I was hired here, I thought, you know, we want to have a programs in Pennsylvania that are like these programs in the Midwest and Texas and a little bit of Florida and some California, you know, like these hubs of the marching arts. And I mean, you look at all of them and everything is good. So I learned that first of all, but then I thought, why is everything good? Um, there's a ton of there's many factors down in Texas. You have the UIL programs. You have there are still Texas is its own country, so there are still like states within Texas where things are vary in terms of quality and size and such. You look at Japan, they have great programs, of course. Their culture is much different over there. Like most homes have a piano in their house, and we don't
Hmm.
we don't have that in the United States. Um,
And there's lots of schools that don't have janitors. Like literally,
yeah,
the kids are the janitors. The kids have to maintain the school, and I love that. We should do that.
yeah, you do everything how you do anything, right?
Yep.
So I looked at all these things and I thought, how do we take that from these places that work, the things that work, and bring it into Pennsylvania? So that was the first challenge I thought when I was hired here. So I looked at a few programs that were successful that had an indoor percussion program because we had an indoor percussion program. And when I got here, that was very, very important to the culture of the music department. And it held a lot of things together at that time. So we are super fortunate here. We have this Cody Stafford is his name. He's my assistant director, one of my assistant directors, and he is a full-time history teacher in the building, and he's also the director of percussion. So we got the percussion director in the school, and I could walk down the hallway and talk to him, and he could teach kids lessons and work on props and use his soldering kit that he bought for building props and everything during the school day. So it's not this distant person outside of the program. And it works the same way for color guard and all of this. This is a long answer. I'm trying to figure out how to sum it up as quickly as
No,
possible.
so like, how about scheduling wise? Like,
Oh,
obviously, you're
yeah,
not going to have marching band at the same time as you have jazz band,
no.
or you're not going to
Marching,
have marching band at the same time as you have, indoor percussion. Like that's
yep,
silly, right? So logistically, how do you do it?
cool. I'll just talk through the year then.
Yeah.
So jazz and honors symphonic are both classes for us.
Okay.
So they alternate the same period every single day. So ACE day, we're in a 6 period cycle with letters for days. ACE day is going to be jazz and BDF is going to be symphonic band. And that's year round. So then in the fall, like I feel like most programs, we have the marching band program. And next year we're actually starting a middle school percussion program, which will teach concert percussion, or marching percussion. It works in 4 marking periods. Marching percussion the first marking period, and concert percussion the second marking period. So those two things will run simultaneously. Um, and our marching band is 7th through 12th grade because we want to get more kids exposed to the program.
Yep.
So then marching band is over. We've been rehearsing with jazz and symphonic band up until this point. Then we have our winter concert, which I program. I don't primarily program like Christmas music and stuff. We'll do Sleigh Ride and some Stan Kenton with mellophone thing
Yep.
with the
Which
jazz
for
band.
young teachers, if they don't know, sleigh ride is freaking hard.
Oh yeah. Yep, we built a whip that was 7 feet tall. We have two
That's
percussionists running each other. It's a whole thing. They love it.
that's
But we
awesome.
we we do a shtick and everything, and then after that, and a little bit before that, we start our indoor season. So we'll have our indoor percussion start at the high school. Our winter guard rehearses primarily at the middle school right now, and we have auditions usually right after or right before winter break. Typically after winter break, if I remember correctly. And then we start running those programs. Well, that's happening. Our jazz competition season starts after winter break. So
Yep.
we have our rep. I hand out all of our rep before winter break. We rehearse it for like 2 weeks. We have winter break, and the expectation is all the kids practice and come back. We've had kids take pocket trumpets on ski trips and stuff, so they're fairly committed. So that they go out and do that, and we come back, and then we have jazz competitions. We only can do on Fridays, really, because indoor percussion and winter guard is over the weekend, and we have a lot of cross pollination with the percussion program, especially with those that play the drum set. So, and we don't have a super big program. We have 1,350 kids at the high school. So we're not a big high school. We have 90 to 100 kids in the band program. So it's not a big enough program to say, well, you're in the jazz band, so you're not in the indoor percussion
Right.
program.
Right. Right.
So we need to make sure that all works in harmony. We have musical too. We have the pictures back there, the pit orchestra, all the wind ensemble kids do pit orchestra. We had 40 kids in the pit orchestra last for the Little Mermaid. It was wild. Yeah, so that all happens in March. We wrap that up. April, we wrap up our indoor programs with WGI Worlds in Dayton. And then 2 weeks after that, we start marching band, and the whole process starts over again.
Yeah, it sounds like our programs are very similar. But for me, jazz ensemble is a year-round but outside of school activity. We
Mhm.
don't have it during the day because we haven't found a way to schedule it where we don't take away from the choir and the band program as well. So yeah, the days when we're scheduling winter guard, winter percussion, and jazz ensemble and combos all at the same time, we've got about 75, 80 kids in our program. Our school's about 700 or a little bit less. So, I mean, what's small for you is actually very big for my state.
Totally.
Yeah, so like things like, okay, we have percussion from 4 to 6:30 on Monday and Thursday. Okay. So great. We're going to have jazz ensemble from 2:45 to 4. And the reason is because I know there's 6 kids who don't do jazz band who should, but they don't, but they're waiting around for percussion. So while they
Mhm.
wait around for percussion, they play the vibes or the piano or something in the jazz band. So then you get more kids in the jazz band. And then if you have kids waiting around for jazz band, you'll say, well, I can just stay and do percussion. So like some of these more kids do more for in our case. And at the same time, they also get everything done in 2 days. So they can be part of two really big active programs, and it's only 2 days during the week, and then they've got the weekends.
No, that's great. That's
Yes.
smart.
So like that scheduling, right? As the whoever's kind of putting that piece together, think about it from the parents' standpoint, think about it from the kid's standpoint. How can you make it as attractive as possible to do as many different things? So the question I have for you, Eddie, is so like I'll say this: I've interviewed a lot of teachers around the country, and there's a lot of band programs that we look at as amazing, and they're
Mhm.
fantastically sounding band programs, but they don't have a jazz program at all, or they are amazing in jazz, but they don't march ever.
Yep.
So the thought of doing, and I'll put the indoor stuff as part of the marching program, right?
Yeah.
If you take those three, like to do all three well is hard. So like, what is your thought about? Could you be better at one thing if you didn't do the other things, right? Or you're like, no, it's more important that we do the best we can at all three. I'll say.
I think for this is what I was saying about all those programs, and you look at the culture and the different for Pennsylvania, for our school district, all of these things have to be good. I feel really strongly about that because let's see, I'm not gonna say anything too specific, but I've seen programs where, like you were saying, they go gung ho in marching band, and they have a great marching band, and they go into concert world and they talk the whole rehearsal and don't play anything really of merit, and then the kids don't buy in, and if you don't have kids buying in the whole school year, it's not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
um you know and there's different schedules, and there's different cultures, and there's different facilities, and kids have different access to different things. Like I've seen great mariachi programs do
Mm-hmm.
what my concert program does for the kids. A lot has to do with the community, um but you have to make sure it's all quality. That matters a lot to me. So to answer your question, do you, if you're talking about band proper all over the place, do you always have to have everything be good? Or is it better to have a few things be good, be really good, and that'll lead to more success for the students? It's going to be different, I think. It's going to be a different answer depending on where you go.
The question I have is like, what if you say, let's not do marching band at all? I'm not advocating for that. I'm just saying
Yeah.
if all these kids took all the time that they were doing in marching band and they spent it working on jazz improvisation, we'd be an essentially Ellington finalist band, right?
Yeah.
Or these bands that don't have a marching band, their kids are practicing jazz band all
Mm.
the time to a point of like my kids can't do that because they're out working on all the marching band stuff, and then vice versa. Some people who say, well, I'm not going to do a jazz band program because I want them to do more indoor percussion. Like
Yeah.
not do it poorly, but like literally don't do it at all. I think that's a place that a lot of people are at. They want to do pick one lane and just be amazing at that one lane.
Well, I'll speak personally. We wouldn't have a jazz band if we didn't have a marching band.
Yep.
So we wouldn't have a marching band if we didn't have a symphonic band. So to get kids into the program, as long as you can get kids into the program and do what you want and do what you think is best, and have the and do only jazz and everything, fine. Then that's maybe the best thing for that specific school district and those kids. But I haven't seen a program around me that is able to attract kids to the initial joining of the program using rehearsal time as the carrot dangling in front of the kids,
Yep.
if that makes sense. You what you want is that you want to see a cool thing and then you join it, whatever that cool thing is. And then once you're in the band program, that's when you start to have kids do other things within the band program that allows you to build everything else up. Does that make sense?
100%. I agree with you 100%. I just want to present what a lot of other people think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Is your so it sounds like your marching band is outside of school. You don't rehearse it during symphonic band time.
Never.
Okay. So there are some, like I was talking to the directors at Carmel a while ago. They're the same way. It's completely outside. But I've talked to other band directors who, nope, what we do until December is all marching band during the day, right? And I guess I would say again, every school is going to be different, every place is different, and traditions are different. I've always found that, yeah, I like to have marching band finals and have a great field show, but that next week when we perform a wind ensemble concert, that's all stuff my kids wouldn't have gotten to do if we weren't working on, investing in the wind program. I think is so crucial to the success of everything.
Absolutely. I mean that goes back to it being the heart, you know. Like you
Mm-hmm.
don't see the heart, but without it you die. You know, that's what it comes down. You can't neglect it. You can't just eat McDonald's double whoppers all the time. You can have a heart attack. You have to everything in moderation and appropriately, and that's what leads to the flourishing of a program.
And I think the consistency of a flourishing program.
Hmm. And sustainability.
When it comes to working with a group of other teachers that are on your staff, whether it be in a jazz program or a chamber music program or the winds or guard or percussion or whatever, we have to remember we're dealing with other adults. And if you're in the position like I am, and it sounds like you are, where you're like a quote unquote head director, where you kind of like have a staff that works with you. For me, what I just said is I think extremely crucial, that my staff does not work for me. My staff works with me, and we just have different jobs. And creating a unified staff vision, I think, is really important. Which is what's been your experience with that?
Well, we coming in here, we had the last director did a pretty good, like a great job having a good program, building a good staff. A few people left, when the director shifts, some staff shifts and everything. We had Cody, my assistant director, still here. But coming into the program, I watched it for a year. We had one other wind staff member that would do marching band, and it seemed that everyone did their own thing and they did it well, but it wasn't like they weren't all building into the program as we're saying here.
Right.
So we unifying a vision with your staff is super important, I would say, and also making sure you have people that'll buy into it. So for example, um, Cody and I were on the same page that kids in Pennsylvania are like kids everywhere else. And there's no reason they can't perform at a super high level. And he had built his percussion staff for outdoor and indoor with that same philosophy. So everyone I would bring in with the wind program, we now have 5 or 6 people that work with our wind program, and they come into symphonic sometimes. They do marching band. It's important they share that as well. And when you get everyone sharing a unified vision of excellence and believing in the kids, um, then you get emotional buy-in from everyone in their in respective programs. And you're absolutely right in saying that you work with the staff, right? It's super important as a director of bands to be hands off with some things
Mm-hmm.
after you unify that vision. You're not like dragging people along, you'll lose your mind. I've seen directors have to go to every indoor rehearsal all year, and I don't know how they're married still after doing
Mm-hmm.
that full school for a full year, you know? So the percussion guys, they write the whole show, they come up with the whole concept. I'm completely hands off with the whole thing. The My winter guard staff, my other assistant director is John Marrero, and he marched amp winter guard since they were founded, and he just the nicest guy you'll meet in your whole. He's just incredible, and he sings. His voice sounds just like Bruno Mars. It's awesome. So he and his wife now, they just got married, are the guard directors, and they have their whole thing they do with the guard program. And at the end of the day, we all come together with a marching program, and we look at it that way, where those programs build off the marching ensemble success. The wind players go to symphonic band with the percussionists because they have to be percussionists and not drummers, and then they have their respective indoor programs, and they teach with the same philosophy and the same methods and the same process, and they teach music theory in their indoor ensembles so that we are raising musicians instead of teaching by rote through 12th grade.
Yep.
And then they all come back in marching, and it builds off each other. So, giving them a sense of ownership keeps them. Getting the right people makes the program better. Having a better program keeps them around. And then negotiating appropriately, playing the money game, having a successful nonprofit, and paying them enough money also helps a lot.
Yeah, and I think valuing them, when they, as an adult, they know they're valued, they have input, you're listening to what they're saying, you're trying to do right by them, as well as by the kids. It's all one big family. To me, one thing I've always done, this is probably not a new thing, but like we have a monthly staff meeting all year long with the marching band staff that when we're not in season, we don't have one in July. Every other month we have one. So we're at my house, we're doing taco night or barbecue or whatever, and there's a meeting, there's food, there's hanging, and it's all about this shared vision. So like we get to talk through everything before we do it or after we did it. We'll start the end of the season meeting like, okay, what do we change for next year? So they all have this way to we all hang out together without the kids so we can
Yeah,
have this sort of shared vision as we go forward.
yeah, that's yeah, I 100% agree with that. Staffs, yeah, we're lucky here. I love our. I could talk about our staff. I love them. I hope it would be cool to see you one day with all of them. Because it's just about they are the program, and just like the kids are, and it's we couldn't do this by ourselves, and all
Nope.
directors know that 100%. Like the program is a culmination of the kids and the staff, and when you have a staff that motivates the same way that it seems like we both believe in, the kids are getting it everywhere. It makes them it makes the whole experience a ton more rewarding.
And how great is it to be in a position to know that if your 4-month-old child had to be homesick and
Hmm.
you had to stay home, the staff could still run a marching band rehearsal.
Yep.
Like you don't want to say, I'm out of it, I'm not important, but
Yeah,
to have enough people empowered around you so that it's not all reliant on you is also big for you as a parent and as band director.
absolutely. And I also want to say that it's okay to have disagreements with the staff, and the kids see it too. It's like in a rehearsal, we argue about the timbre of an EQ solo or how much reverb we want on this one thing. And we are like we have a it's not like a huge argument. We have a disagreement on the field or there's some delay issue and we have different opinions on how to fix it. And the kids see that, and it's not a violent argument, but they could tell like we both care enough
Mhm.
to talk about it. And then I feel like in this world, it's so bad. It's always a bad thing to have a disagreement with somebody, when in reality, it's two people caring about something.
Mhm.
And they're taught in most other aspects of life that it's not healthy, but it is.
Totally.
So,
Yeah, and I think when you have the right humans as your staff members, the
mhm.
ego kind of goes away. And
Yep.
when you lead without ego as well, because they may disagree with you on something, but and maybe 8 times out of 10 you can be like, all right, you do it your way. It's really not that big of a deal. Like you do what you're going to do. But sometimes you have to say, I'm sorry, at this point, this is what we're going to do, and that's it. And if they don't if they have an ego or they're young enough or they can't, it's all about them. That's where you have like issues, right?
Yep.
So avoiding those is all about getting the right people.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Eddie, thanks for the great conversation. We're going to talk a little bit about a couple band pieces and composers you love as well as for me. But if anybody wants to reach out to you and get in touch with you, how would they do that?
You can shoot me an email, Edward Otto, OTTO 4 @gmail.com. I'm also on the social medias.
Mhm.
My Instagram name is Ottotune, haha, OTTOTUNE, and I'm Eddie Otto with an IE on Facebook.
Beautiful. All right. So, what's a band piece or composer that you really love, or a couple?
Yeah, so when I was hired here at Unionville High School, in my interview with the assistant superintendent, I was talking about I was geeking out a little bit. I was showing him drum corps videos and everything. And he was asking me about the symphonic program, and I said, by the time I leave here, we will have our top ensemble will be playing Maslenka Symphony 4.
which
And
is
he was like,
ridiculous.
"Oh, yeah." Well, he's like, "Oh, great, yeah, sure." They don't know off the top of their head, but this spring we did it, and it was. I know some people may be listening to this like, "Oh, that's really hard." The kids did a great job. They worked. We have lunch and learn in the middle of the day, which is essentially a 1 hour long study hall.
Yep.
Kids can eat lunch and do study hall and stuff. And every single lunch and learn all spring, as soon as we got the music, the day we got the music, these kids were having sectionals and they worked so hard and bought into it. And it was one of the most special performance experiences I've ever been a part of. And I think they have too. So I love that's also the piece that got me off my high horse on, only jazz, only marching band
Mhm.
and brought me into the wind band world.
I want to jump in really quick on the Maslanka route. There's one we just did as well that I love. It's only a grade 4 called Illumination, or a grade 3+/4. That's if you're like, I love Maslanka, but we're not going to do Symphony number 4. This is another great Maslanka piece.
That's a great piece. I like that. We've played that before.
Yep.
Yeah. That's a good one. And then the in between Give Us This Day is pretty good.
Yes. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's okay. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
So who is the
Cool.
other composer you were telling me about?
Yeah, so the I love with my whole heart Percy Aldridge Granger.
Mhm.
His music changed my life. And I've never programmed, and you could judge me for this if you want. I've never programmed a concert that didn't have a Granger piece in it. We were to the
Wow.
point where the wind ensemble has purple sweatshirts with a Granger and a heart on it right here. So, the kids bought into it, and I'm trying to think of a piece we haven't played by him that's super significant. We've done Lincolnshire, we've done Gum Suckers March, we just did that one. the clarinet section wanted to play Green Bushes, so we did that. We did Molly on the Shore. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Yeah, all great stuff.
And what's great about Granger's music too is that they have a lot of accessible arrangements for, if say you have a band that's a grade 2 band
Yep.
or a grade 3 band, not a grade 4 or 5 band, just go on Pepper and just put in Granger and then search by grade level. And there's tons of Michael Sweeney, Douglas Wagner, like the Colonial song, Douglas Wagner is ridiculous. It's so good. There's accessible Granger for every level.
Yeah, we had a beginner band. We did a point 0.5 grade arrangement of Shepherd's Hay.
I've heard that. That's awesome.
Yeah, so we've done that for sure. And then I'm in orchestra transcriptions too. So there's a great we're talking like Lincolnshire Posy, Maslenko symphonies. That's like super high level stuff. There's a really really great grade 4.5 5 arrangement of Dan's on Number 2.
Mhm.
Oliver Nickel did that, and that's a great if you have a good woodwind section that's just wants to play some eighth notes and
Mhm.
you want a little Latin flair in your concert, that's a great one.
That is a great piece. I love that piece. Well, Eddie, thank you. This has been a great conversation.
Yeah, anytime. It's a privilege being here. Thanks for having me on.
We sincerely appreciate you taking your valuable time and listening to the Growing Band Director podcast. Your students are very lucky to have a band director like you. If you have any suggestions for episode topics or think you have an area of expertise to share on a show with us, please reach out. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe. And if you want to help spread the word, please give us a 5-star review and tell your band director friends to subscribe as well. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, our YouTube channel, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks for listening to The Growing Band Director. See you next week.